The Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast is back for another episode. Join Marc S. Ryan, a veteran health plan and health technology executive, as he explores the world of healthcare.
Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. My name is Marc Ryan, and thanks to everyone for listening in. This podcast should be a relatively short one this week, and you may hear a bit of outrage in my voice along the way. I am reacting to recent news coverage that says President Donald Trump and the GOP in Congress may want yet another pass at repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act, known as the ACA or Obamacare. All I can say is, say it isn't so. Apparently, the bad ACA replacement nightmare keeps coming back. We'll take 2 breaks today, so let's jump right into it. Just as 2026 midterm fundraising is heating up, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz dropped a bombshell recently when he told NBC News that President Donald Trump may have a plan to overhaul and replace the Affordable Care Act. I emphasize may. Dr. Oz referred to the potential hidden plan as he was declaring his opposition to extending the current enhanced exchange premium subsidies due to expire at the end of the year. Quote, "I fully believe the president has a plan," end quote, Oz said. Quote, "We've been talking about it quite a lot," end quote. He added there is a full plan, but Democrats are, quote, "holding the entire country hostage by shutting the government down. The folks who would help this system evolve into a mature model aren't at work to help do it," end quote. So, is there or is there not a full plan, Dr. Oz? In addition, Oz declared his opposition to any enhanced premium subsidy extension in the exchanges. Quote, "I think we all agree that COVID has passed, so therefore COVID-era subsidies should also pass," end quote, Oz said. Oz attempted to justify the expiration by pointing to CMS calculations that the average American who purchases an ACA plan will pay $50 a month in 2026, even if the enhanced tax credits expire, an increase of only $13 from this year, CMS says. Quote, "So there can be a lot of hair pulling and scratching, mudslinging, but the fundamental reality for most Americans is that although it is an increase in spend, that's not the big issue," end quote, Oz said. Quote, "The big issue is the fundamental flaws within the ACA," end quote. At the same time, President Trump also signaled he wants another try at replacement. Trump mentioned his desire in a private meeting with congressional leaders. He publicly urged the 2 parties to look at an alternative to Obamacare, arguing that they could come up with a, quote, "much better," end quote, option. Quote, "We have to fix healthcare because Obamacare is a disaster. When you see the increases in Obamacare, it never worked. It never will work, and we can do something with the Democrats much better than Obamacare. Less money and better health care. And I think that's something that could come out of this with the Democrats. We work with the Democrats," end quote, said the president. The president then slammed Obamacare and demanded Democrats, quote, "do something," end quote, ahead of a huge surge in exchange premiums. Quote, "As I have said for years, Obamacare is a disaster. Rates are going through the roof for really bad health care. Do something, Democrats," end quote, the president wrote on social media. With that background, we will take our first break, and when we come back, we will continue our discussion of the subsidy extension dilemma and supposed ACA replacement efforts by the GOP. Be right back.
Health plans and insurance are confusing. Our healthcare system is in dire need of reform. Health policy expert Marc Ryan tackles both issues in his book, The Healthcare Labyrinth. It is both a guide to navigating health plans and fixing American health insurance. Marc dives deep into how health plans and the American health insurance system operate. He then outlines a comprehensive reform agenda for the system as a whole, including pricing, emphasizing health and care management, and ensuring affordable access to health coverage in a private delivery model. Marc is a bit of an unconventional Republican in that he believes affordable access is the morally right thing to do, and that it is also fiscally prudent for our nation. Learn more about Marc's book, The Healthcare Labyrinth, at healthcarelabyrinth.com or search at leading bookseller websites. Available in print, ebook, and audiobook forms.
Welcome back to this edition of the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. We hope you are enjoying this episode. We're talking about rumblings that the GOP wants to take another pass at replacing the Affordable Care Act's healthcare coverage expansion. Let's first cover the looming exchange-enhanced premium subsidy expiration. Trump administration officials appear to be relatively tone-deaf on the looming expiration of the enhanced premium subsidies in the exchange. Republicans have no unified plan to address the doubling of premiums for subsidized individuals that will occur in 2026. Some people blame the president for his lack of real urgency in extending the subsidies and intransigence among more conservative Republicans in Congress. News reports say that Republicans in the White House are, in fact, discussing a potential subsidy extension with conservative reforms, but few details are really known. House Republicans say they have numerous policy proposals from over the past years that could be incorporated. I happen to think the current premium enhancements may be too generous in some cases, with millions receiving health care for no premiums at all. While critics question the data and studies, CMS and the conservative Paragon Institute argue that the enhancements have led to major fraud in the program, an increase in zero claims from enrollees, and what are being characterized as phantom enrollees, those who don't even know that they have coverage as agents and brokers illegally enroll them to receive commissions. At the same time, there is no questioning the fact that the enhanced subsidies did lead to a number of benefits. Since they went into effect, enrollment has surged to over 24 million in 2025, about double what it was in 2020. Many of these folks would otherwise have been uninsured. The enhancements have also made the exchanges a much less scary financial place for insurers. The enrollment and the better overall risk selection, the enhancements attracted a great deal of young healthy types, has meant more plans, better networks, more access, dropping premiums in some years or reasonable increases in others, and more stability, especially in the roughly half of states that previously had poor coverage. On balance, I have said that the enhancements should be extended in some form, but should be tweaked to prevent fraud and improper enrollments. In a blog and podcast, I outlined some of the proposed compromises that could see the enhanced subsidies extended. In the end, we know what will happen if the enhancements are not extended. Millions will lose coverage, premiums will increase by 114% on average for subsidized folks, and the exchanges will again be a questionable place in roughly half of all states. With that, we will take our second break, and when we come back, we will continue our discussion to get to the supposed ACA replacement efforts by the GOP. Be right back.
The Healthcare Labyrinth is no ordinary website. It features news and commentary from one of the nation's leading healthcare policy and technology experts. Marc Ryan combs the internet for the latest healthcare news and publishes a news feed each weekday with summations and Marc's insights. Twice a week, Marc publishes a blog to go deep into a current issue. And of course, Marc hosts a podcast each week to delve even further. All of this is available at healthcarelabyrinth.com. Visit each day for the latest happenings in healthcare. As well, learn more about Marc's book, The Healthcare Labyrinth, at the website. That's healthcarelabyrinth.com, your go-to source for healthcare news.
Welcome back to this edition of the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. We hope you are enjoying this episode. We're talking about rumblings that the GOP wants to take yet another pass at replacing the ACA healthcare coverage. As I've indicated, the Trump administration seems to care little not only about the current subsidy enhancement expiration, but worse, the GOP seems to care even less about coverage of Americans in general. The Republicans say they want a better ACA, but have never really offered one that didn't mean millions losing coverage. That applies when the GOP tried to repeal the ACA in 2017. That applies during the most recent 2024 campaign where Trump said he had the outlines of a plan to make healthcare better, but never unveiled anything. That applies during the debate over the one big beautiful bill that recently happened, where the GOP cut coverage, but offered little in the way of true reform. And that applies even now with Dr. Oz's remarks. There is no credible plan. Where's the plan? Over the years, the GOPers, remember this is my party, rally around all sorts of possible reforms, such as breaking the hard link between employment and health coverage by promoting individual options. Some of the ideas are not bad, such as expanding ICHRA health accounts to allow businesses to subsidize individual coverage, and health savings account expansions, and more. I would question their advocacy, though, for short-term limited duration coverage. That is not comprehensive and has a ton of challenges, including access and true affordability in healthcare. I would say over time, too, that we may need to pull back on some mandated benefits and coverage in the ACA, as it is driving costs and making things unaffordable, which also creates access and affordability challenges. But again, ripping apart the ACA as we know it now with nothing truly comprehensive to replace it would mean millions lose coverage. In my book, I suggest the best way to lower costs and improve affordability and quality is to truly reform price, ensure affordable universal access, and invest in primary care health and wellness. The problem is that Republicans generally believe that healthcare is a commodity, one earned and purchased as you move your way up the income ladder. Democrats are not any better. Their answer is more and more dollars to expand both covered populations and benefits, without regard to long-term sustainability. Neither party will really stand up consistently to entrenched healthcare lobbies. For example, hospitals, provider groups, health plans, pharmacy benefits managers, and brand drug makers who staunch reform at every pass. Oz's remarks that, quote, "I fully believe the president has a plan," end quote, are both fascinating and exasperating. I would think the chief healthcare official in government would know about the plan and even have had a hand in developing it. Have we sunk so low that the policy comes only from Trump's head? Perhaps so. That Trump and Oz would even mention replacement again has to have sent shivers down the spines of a couple dozen swing state House GOPers and a few senators up for re-election soon. It is really the last thing they need to hear right now. More talk of paring coverage just as premiums for millions will double. In 2018, the 2017 ACA repeal attempt by the GOP was a leading reason for the Democrats taking back the House. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, with over $1 trillion in Medicaid and exchange cuts, and perhaps $500 billion more in Medicare because the bill increases the deficit, could be a seminal issue in the 2026 midterms as well. Oz's remarks here are undisciplined and naive, much like the president's healthcare remarks at times. They both should stop worrying millions of Americans or put up a true reform plan to be debated, one that preserves coverage versus taking it away from millions. With that, we will conclude this edition of the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks for joining Mark and the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. Go to healthcarelabyrinth.com each day for the latest healthcare news. See you next week on the next Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast.